Originally, I was in a rush to make this video in light of the whole COPPA incident where it looked like YouTube was going to terminate any and all channels that weren't child-friendly, in addition to demonetizing, disabling comments, or any videos targeted for kids. But the recent news that this was all blown out of proportion, and the knowledge that YouTube was really intending to update its website, is largely reassuring. Even before the whole clearing up of the FTC, this video wasn't meant to be a farewell per se, although we'll see what the future of YouTube comes to by the start of the new decade, and see if it's even recognizable, or something we have to learn all over. It's more about me sharing my personal feelings regarding how my life has been this past year, and where it's potentially headed. And it's also a video I want to round off with a thank you, as Thanksgiving in America is right around the corner. For starters, I think it fair to point out to all you who subscribe to me on YouTube that I've only officially committed to making this many YouTube videos for about a year now. And that was because it was now more than ever that I've been feeling compelled to say things to a wider audience than I otherwise could on DeviantArt. Not to say that my DeviantArt audience was terrible by any means. Discovering all these personas on YouTube and being exposed to so many forms of art that I otherwise wouldn't have known existed has been largely beneficial to me, but becoming a YouTube persona myself wasn't something I wanted to fully invest in. And not because of the whole COPPA thing, along with all the other shit that YouTubers have to put up with on a daily basis. As an artist who is seeking to make more art and is still trying out multiple venues to determine which one I'm best suited to, I just didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket. In addition, I've worked the past year and a half 37 hours a week at a gas station, which just barely paid me enough to pay my share of the rent and frequently took a lot out of me. While still a far cry from the worst job I could possibly be having, and I'm still grateful to have had it for plenty of reasons, the longer I did it, the more it weighed on me. In addition to the fact that this job is already one that tests your sanity and your endurance in many ways, and still barely pays me enough for being the most tax-expensive state in the US, and in addition to the fact that my business hours tend to be the busiest ones I had to handle, all by myself, and I was getting to an age where I started to have to pay for my own health benefits, which the station I work at doesn't have enough resources to provide me. And it seemed like my chances for other means of supporting myself were still out of my reach. There were even times this year where I had to call in sick from work because I was feeling so stressed out by the work overload that I started getting these severe stomach pains, which almost bordered on ulcer levels. And still, the thought I was dreading the most, beyond all the hardships that I currently had to face right now, is more the prospect that this might not be the hardest thing I've ever had to endure. There were several times where I began questioning how long I even had left to survive, provided I don't eventually get sick from being exposed to gas fumes. However long did I have to relocate and move back home? And if that were to happen, how do I go about getting a job that can sustain me to the time where my parents are gone? And if that were to happen, and I reach my middle ages, how do I go about getting a job that can sustain me for the time that my parents have passed? But the worst part of all this to me was how I viewed myself as a person. I'm sure that most of us have been raised under the philosophy of you are everything that's wrong with you, as an emphasis on the notion that you are accountable for your actions, not your mental states or your bad habits. Well, I've always been someone who took most of what elders said to me at heart and did not take it lightly. I'm already super hard and judgmental of myself, frequently scolding myself whenever I've snapped under stress and lost my temper. And I've always been questioning whether I made the right decision for the moment and what sort of consequences may stem from them. So imagine what it must feel like when you stress so much about doing everything in your power to be everything that's right in your life, and all those efforts feel like they're not paying off. You might start to feel like you're being punished for something. You might start to question what kind of person you really are for the universe to want to inflict all of this upon you. We all know about how these stories of people's rise to stardom and riches take time and patience, but the hard truth is that until that day comes, you still have monthly bills to pay and you still need to eat. When I was going to school, I was so fully committed to all my assignments that, while I wouldn't say I practically had no social life, I did not spend a whole lot of time going out with friends or have that many recreational activities because I had big dreams. Legally being required to go to school is easily one of the most ungratifying parts of life. And the only thing that keeps you going all those years is the vision that you have in your head that the more you put into it, the farther it'll take you. So imagine what it must feel like after you graduate with a 3.4 GPA, only to have this be what it amounts to. A job which scarcely allows you to live comfortably, while other jobs you wish you had seem to be out of reach, or just keep getting snatched up by somebody else who seems lucky. But then, just this year, I've started making some of my breaks in the field as an artist. Even just this past month, I managed to complete a freelance project in just 2 weeks, hence my absence from YouTube and DeviantArt at the time, doing a job that paid me 10 times more than any other freelance job I've had. Heck, it made me more money in this one project than I do pumping gas in a month. I can't go into too much detail about my project was just yet, but when the time is appropriate, I will certainly share it with the rest of you because it is a big deal, and it is a major stepping stone for me to making my dreams come true. So with this news that I'm making the biggest break that I've had thus far in my field, my worries in life should be dwindling, right? Far from it. As you take on this project, which you recognize as your big break, you know that fate has presented you with something that you have to really prove yourself worthy of. And you have to go out of your way to do so, even forgetting to have a proper lunch or dinner in the process occasionally. You start dreading the prospect that you might have effed up something in the process. You have a tough time trusting that everything is going to turn out fine, particularly when past experiences are full of times where we felt sure about ourselves and that everything was going our way only to discover that we were horribly betrayed. And you never know when to trust your head, your heart, or your gut, because you fear that you never know when any one of them might be messing with you. Basically, the whole time you're thinking to yourself, please, Lord, I've endured your tests all the way up to this point. Don't yank out the rug from under me. But of course, starting up both a DeviantArt account and a YouTube account has benefited me greatly as well, as far as expressing some personal thoughts and sharing my personal mindsets. And moreover, receiving input and comments from those who follow me. I don't get paid to express my opinions on YouTube. I do it to bring myself peace of mind in an age where controversy on the internet has gotten way out of hand, and people are more interested in using it as a means of blowing steam and throwing shit in people's faces. I strive to spread positivity as well as productivity, and I like to think that if I were to get rich and famous, I wouldn't use that opportunity just to bask in the glory of it all. I'd like to think that if I was famous, I'd use my status to help spread wisdom and extend my philosophies to multiple individuals and hope that it enlightens them. But the truth is that sometimes I start to question my own life philosophies. Oftentimes, I wasn't even sure if I was being a hypocrite or not. I've said that it's times when life seems that it's most bleak that we need to strive to maintain our hope the most. But I've started wondering to myself how much good repeating that really does me. I talk on my channel all the time about how I value artistic vision. I've been convincing myself all of my life that I could make art that people could love and that I could make a living from. But the more I see dissenting opinions on the internet, and the more I realize that it's impossible to make anything that will please everyone, the scarier the proposition sounds. If I realize that it's virtually impossible to please everybody, why not focus on pleasing yourself then? There are plenty of examples of big name stars who make stuff just to please themselves after all. You know, like John Kay, or even the likes of Shyamalan, whom has such a tarnished reputation to the point that he will be deemed as forever unfit to make any film ever again. And it doesn't matter how needlessly toxic audiences can get. They have the power to either persuade or dissuade others from going to see what you've gone out of your way to create. And it doesn't matter how much effort and passion you put into your project, it is always foreshadowed by the marketing and reputation of bigger names. All those stories we like to hear about people connecting with audiences by simply expressing themselves, all they feel like are lucky shots, because essentially they are. One out of hundreds or even thousands of people whose dreams crumbled into dust. And it seems like the only thing left to do as an artist just to survive is to endure all the chastising from critics and audiences and settle for making surefire, easy to market stuff. Just sell out already, so to speak. Now, I didn't write this video to make it into a pity me party, nor did I make it to scare anyone into thinking that they have a hellhole of a future ahead of them. On the contrary, I made this in part to remind you that all those people living the success stories you love hearing about, while they might seem like angels selected by heaven for greatness at times, have endured trials and tribulations that every human being deals with on a daily basis, oftentimes more so than the average Joe. Yes, I will fully admit to being one of those people who overthinks things and has a tendency to catastrophize a lot of scenarios, if anything that I just described to you is any sort of indicator. It really is like what Celine Dion said. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. Now that I've completed the project and come out on the other side, I'm proud of myself and feeling stronger than ever. Even when I was doing it, I was aware that this was a feeling I would have to get used to if I wanted to make a living at this. But it does make me stronger. I'm still in perfectly good health and I have enough to eat, and I'm equipped with more of life's tools that will help me when I get into my 30s. It's a process that's going to be hard, but I don't believe it's going to be so much so that it's going to make my life a living hell. Granted, this year I've had a hard time truly believing that because of everything I just described to you, so much so that I've been on the verge of giving up and often felt like I was grasping at straws just to come up with some reason not to. But that's just another testament to why the message should be passed on from generation to generation, despite how generic it may sound. If nothing else, the big reason you should not give up is because you're aware that once you've thrown away whatever ounce of hope you have left, and you don't want to spend the rest of your time regretting what you didn't do more than what you did do. So the big thing I want to take the opportunity to do at this point in the video is to thank all of you. All of you guys who watch me on DeviantArt, like Blue Jay Player, Power Loud Girl, OboShoe16, and Dr. W, and you guys who subscribe to me on YouTube, including Mark Kaboozy, Alex Klepp, Connor Johnson, FilmLab, and most recently, voice actor Bobby G. The fact that you all find value in the things that I say and appreciate the positive ideologies I try to spread really does mean a lot to me. You can also follow me on Facebook and contact me on my official site, which I'll leave in the description below. Whether I decide to grow my own YouTube channel into something I can make a living off of, or whether you end up seeing me on TV sometime, we'll see. Whatever direction my life is going to take me in, I'm ready for it, and I'm thankful for how far I've come thus far. As the song from Avenue Q goes, everything in life is only for now.